yet. I'm just going to hit record so that way, well, I can almost read that. Not there yet. Good morning. Welcome. Oh, it doesn't even have audio together yet.
He should have.
That, this, that, yep. Perfect. Hey, how are you?
Yes, all right.
Check, check, mic check. Karabuni, everybody. Welcome aboard. Please slide all the way into your row. If you have any small children, please seat them to the inside. If you have any loose articles like purses, bags, bowling balls, or badgers, please place them in the net bags in front of you. That'll keep them from bouncing around when we hit rough road. Okay, cool. So I'm pretty sure that means he can hear us. Awesome. So that'll work. All right. So welcome aboard. I'm going to get rid of the sidebar for me. Then everything should be gravy. We're already recording, so I don't really do any fancy intro here. I'm like, let's not waste your time. So my goal is to highlight you guys, the project, dig into how in the world you guys found each other, decided to go into business together, because that's a huge one. So I'll compare and contrast that with kind of the world that I'm from with Penn and Teller. So they've got a really weird working relationship that's lasted for 45 years, and we could dig into that. Yeah, is there anything else that you guys definitely want to talk about that you really don't get to very often? Or is there anything that you for sure want to stay away from?
Not particularly in my mind. I mean, I'm happy to just start there where you said and then just see where it goes.
Cool.
What do you feel?
Yeah, I don't have anything in particular I want to talk about. I mean, I guess generally we're sort of we're kind of apolitical, so I guess I'd rather not talk about anything political. But other than that, all good.
Cool. Yeah, my goal is to make these evergreen and an escape from reality, not a continuing focus on processes that you have little control over. So I'm right there with you. So
Sure.
if you guys would draw straws or flip a coin for introducing yourselves.
Yeah, Luke, go ahead.
Right. So I'm still in China. I've been here for almost, I think, 7 years now. And I came with the express purpose of learning Chinese. So I went to China for about 2 months in my gap year, and I loved it. And my little bit of Chinese that I learned from Pimsleur, one of those speak and record programs, I'm one of those people that can just I can easily obsessively just spend hours and hours on a single thing as long as I think it's going to go somewhere. So I spent about 90 hours just talking to myself, and it worked a treat. Obviously I learned a lot of awkward phrases and Pimsleur has some downsides, but essentially my pronunciation was on point from day one. And I went there and when it was a month trip and it ended up being 2 months, I extended it. And I didn't really want to come back home, but I had to start university. I wish I had just stayed there actually, but I came back from university, and as soon as I graduated, I headed back, and I spent sort of I'd say about at least a year, maybe two, sort of fumbling around trying to study and thinking I was really good and overconfident in my abilities because my pronunciation was good. And I realized after over a year of hard work, I was still struggling. I was absolutely just not getting this language, and it was a pretty big hit to me. And we, I met Phil along the way, and we helped each other out a lot in terms of studying. Phil was at university, and I wasn't, but I learned a lot from him. He learned a lot from me, and I was always obsessed with making money online since before university, because I had a lot of rubbish jobs. And since I was about 14, laborer, and then later on like office worker, retail, all these just rubbish jobs. And I cannot do this for my, in my mind, rubbish, sorry, but I cannot do this. I can't do this for the rest of my life. I want to be one of those entrepreneur guys, and I want to I want to learn how to make money online. And so I put together these really, really bad like videos, and I'd meet up with Phil and I'd be like, what do you think, Phil? And he'd be like, well, this is kind of just about the history of Chinese. It doesn't actually help anyone, but good effort. and it was really bad. Like I'd do it with like handwriting, like live and stuff. And it was just, my handwriting is terrible. And it was just like illegible, but I'd be like, what do you think, Phil? And then I'd go away and I'd sort of plan more, and he'd be like, oh, I guess that's fine. I'm going to get on with my jazz drumming, whatever I do. And I'm like, okay, all right. And I'll meet up with him again. I'm like, what do you think about this? And I keep like showing him these ideas about something that I wanted to do in terms of Chinese. And I kind of missed a section there. I missed the section where I actually figured out how to learn language.
Mm-hmm. I definitely want to zoom in on that for sure.
But that's sort of both of our journeys. So like we could maybe when maybe Phil can jump in as well at that point. But I basically figured out how to learn languages thanks to Phil and thanks to my own research and all these books I was reading, which I'm happy to go into in detail. But and I went from, we both went from struggling after about a year or so of study, just over a year of study, from really struggling, like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to do this, to about a year later, both passing the HSK 6. And that's, which is the highest level Chinese exam. It doesn't necessarily mean that your Chinese is incredible, but it just means that, okay, you can read and write pretty darn well.
Passable at a high level.
Yeah. And then that's when I started going, okay, I'm gonna start making money online from this. I figured out how to learn language, and I can't see it anywhere out there. Mm-hmm. I can't see like what I was literally hours and hours every day, like scrolling the internet for like bits of information, and it seemed to just be hidden away, how to actually learn language through reading and listening,
Yeah.
And so I thought, do you know what? I'll hire some people. I'll meet up with people in the local city here in Chengdu, and I'll charge them a ridiculous amount of money, and they'll be happy to pay me, and I'll teach them the ways that I found and save them from some time. And I got 0 results until I teamed up with Phil.
Got it. So there's this mystical Phil that you've heard of. So what's your story, man?
Well, in my case, I've been in China for about 9 years, and I originally didn't study any Chinese for the first 2 years. I was living in Beijing, and Beijing's a very international city, and it's the type of place where you don't have to speak Chinese. You can definitely get by without it. So I learned a few characters, and I could say the stuff you need to say in a restaurant, but I was mostly just sort of experiencing what Beijing was like, teaching English, and then while I was there, I also started playing drums for a living, which I couldn't really do in Philadelphia, where I'm from. And so I was delighted to find out that I could do that in Beijing. And then that led me to moving to Chengdu in about 2013. And so I played drums there. And Chengdu is such a cool place that I was like, I don't think I'm done with this city. So I'm going to stay here. And if I'm going to stay here for an extended period of time, I'm definitely going to properly learn the language. And so even though I knew that university wasn't exactly the best place to learn, I decided, all right, well, if I go to university, it's sort of like communicating to myself that I'm taking this seriously and I'm going to put a lot of effort into it. But I said right from the jump, I'm going to do it my own way. Like I'm going to take their, because I didn't really, especially at the beginning, I didn't care if I got a degree out of it. I just wanted to, learn the language properly. And I thought, okay, I'll take their material and then I'll put it into my own system. And luckily, I'm just, it's one of those things where I don't really know why this was. I took learning individual characters really seriously right from the beginning. So in the same way Luke took pronunciation really seriously right from the beginning, which was a great move, I did the same thing with characters. And really, we were both right for different reasons. And because of that, I started to get more and more confident that I was going to be successful because I was seeing my classmates struggle so much. Whereas for me, when I knew the characters, if I learned a new word that was like 2 or 3 or 4 characters, I'd be like, well, I can sort of understand this because I put so much focus on the character learning. And then, as Luke said, at that point, we sort of met up and started exchanging notes. And it just very quickly became obvious, especially when we passed the HSK 6, that what we were doing was effective. And if it's effective, and like Luke said, we were trolling the internet trying to find good, materials, and we can't really find them. It's like, well, there's a gap here. So we should probably build out what the ideas we were putting together. And so that's sort of how Mandarin Blueprint birthed itself. It was Luke's idea. And I remember when we finished the HSK6, I think I must have said something to you, Luke, like, we got to just do this now. I mean, like, come on, 2 years, it's supposed to take 4 years. So,
but at that point, I'd been in my bedroom by myself planning this amazing business or whatever, and just never acting. It's something to do with just, I've never done it before. And it's kind of like the way people are with first learning a second language. It's like, I can't do this because I've never done it before. Especially with Chinese, right? People are so uncut. And I was like, I'm just going to keep planning until it's perfect, and then I'll execute. And Phil was just like, it looks pretty good. Let's just put a course together, gather like 4 people, charge them like, $10 each for an hour, and we'll just sit there and talk to them about how we learned Chinese. And I was like, oh, fine, okay. Sure. I mean, it probably won't work, but all right, fine. But we got like 5 people together, and I was teaching English at the time, and my boss was really nice and gave us a spare bedroom, not bedroom, sorry, a spare like, classroom. We just did that. And we did that for about, how long did we do live classes for, Phil?
Well, I guess this would have been 2016 that we started to do this. And then, we did live classes. I mean, we released our online course in mid 2018 with pronunciation course. And then January 1st, 2019, that was the first time it stopped being live. So we went from live and in person to live online over Zoom. And then eventually to, not live, but in the course that, you're currently using, Jonathan.
Yeah, so you were floundering around trying to sell garbage for a little bit just to get your legs under you, just be like, okay, how are we doing this?
There's a good idea in here, but you're gonna have to find it yourself a little bit.
Got it. Then you proved the concept with yourselves by just knocking it out of the park, and then going, okay, let's minimum viable product this by having live people, and we'll just workshop it. So you were workshopping it for yourselves with the guinea pigs that didn't know they were guinea pigs. Then you've got the system down. But there's a leap that I'm not seeing, which is you two are the only people that I've found as well who were doing it the right way. Because I have similar background in that I tried Duolingo, did Pimsleur, and I thought Pimsleur was great because being a touring performer, I would drive to gigs. If I have the time to drive, I would much rather drive for 2 days than be in a plane with strangers. So I would have 2 10-hour rides ahead of me and then just spend 10 hours talking out loud to myself with Pimsleur. Zainar, Zaijar, right? So then just driving down the highway.
Then.
Right? Exactly. It was exactly the same Pimsleur course.
That was spot on, mate. That was absolutely spot on pronunciation there.
Thank you. See? Oh, if they could see me now, right? So I had the same thing, but again, it was it's unidimensional. I might be able to make my way to where I'm going to meet up with my buddies and be able to navigate the trip there. But I won't be able to read. I won't be able to be fluent. And then you guys come along. And there's a lot that I want to dig into here. But basically, to start, I want to focus on how did you make the jump from memory techniques to applying it in such a cool, structured way with Chinese? Because I do these techniques with deck of cards. I can memorize a deck of cards. Takes me a little while, but I have a whole path of 52 locations. And then I have objects that represent different cards. And then where they are, which quadrant in the scene tells me what suit it is. So I can walk through this place and remember the sequence of cards. So I was familiar, but how in the world did you plug the mnemonic techniques into learning characters, into chunking them, into that whole process?
Well, first of all, me and Phil both had the advantage of spending hundreds of hours on doing what you did and what a lot of people do, which is using every single app and website you can find to try and learn the language. I built up 16 million points on memrise.com. So
Wow.
yeah, Neil296, you can go check it if you don't believe. So we both had this experience, and we both, because of this, because we spent so much time and wasted so much, not that memorize is a waste of time, I don't want to start trashing, because it's not at all, it's just using it in the wrong way. I think the biggest, and correct me if I'm wrong, Phil, but I think the biggest thing we figured out was that the biggest problem here is that there's no structure, there's no plan given to people. Like and we always mention these fantastic resources that we love and we promote for free. We're not even, at the moment, we haven't even spoken to them. We're not even, affiliates or anything. Like Chinese Pod, we say, go and get Chinese Pod. They're fantastic. They have an ocean of content that is high quality audio podcast. Go and download them and put them on your phone and listen to them every day and shadow them and do all this stuff with them. Because, we don't have that yet. So go and use that while you can. Also, but there's always this problem of, okay, like I use Chinese for, I would say, at least 500 hours, at least. And I enjoyed it, but I always found myself a bit lost. Just like, okay, I'm just listening to Chinese. Am I getting better? There's no benchmark. The only benchmark was the HSK, and we all know the flaws of the HSK. If you're listening to this, you don't. There's a bunch. I'm not going to go into them now, but it's not exactly the best sort of benchmark. But and that's what I found frustrating. And of course, Phil, he can go on for an hour about the problems at university, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
I actually joined him for a semester before dropping out. I thought this would help my Chinese, and actually like, nope, I'm out of here. Even get a nice easy visa, I'm still out of it. So we basically just think, okay, so where's the issue? We don't have a structure, so we need a structure. Start with pronunciation. We learned that from several resources. Use flashcards, learn characters. We sort of picked up these key tips, these key things that people weren't doing and they were avoiding. I found this incredible sort of base technique for the one that we've currently built on for the hands and moving method, which is called the Marilyn method. And I stumbled upon it just through, again, my endless searches on the internet for how can you learn characters better. I used the Heisig method. It was okay. It's, again, lots of drawbacks. The Heisig method is fantastic, but it's actually genius in a lot of ways, but it's got some drawbacks. How can we improve on that? It doesn't cover pronunciation, for example. You learn characters, but you then have to go and learn their pronunciation separately. And then I found this other technique that learned pronunciation through using the memory techniques that you guys use for learning, the memory palaces, for learning cards, numbers of pi, all this sort of stuff, like visualizing and attaching people, places, and objects to certain elements of the character, pronunciation, the actual components within it. And it looked really cool, and I tried it out, and it's fantastic. And I applied that to the Heisig method and learned 3,000 characters in 6 months. And learned them, like reading, writing, pronunciation. And I was like, okay. But again, there were, and it was just about finding the drawbacks. What did I personally, through spending hundreds of hours learning this, what did I personally think was missing? Me and Phil, because we both used it. We both sit there for, how long did we sit there for? Like at least 3 months, because you'd already learned 1,500 characters by this point, just using Heisig, right? And then we teamed up and we'd sit there and just learn that using this method, this visualization method. We'd both just sit there with a cup of coffee, just like that. Just like laughing.
Yeah.
All right, what was your story? Oh yeah, that was a good one. And we'd share stories about what we imagined for this character and stuff.
To that point, I just wanted to interject, because part of my show, I used to solve a Rubik's Cube on stage, but I could do it at maybe 3 minutes. It's not entertaining. It's not interesting watching somebody just stare at something for 2 minutes. So I can imagine you two guys just sitting around the table staring off into space. And just for hours. I know that in my bones. I've been there, so you're not alone. Like recognizes like. So
yeah. Well, and then so this kind of leads to where we came up with our own innovation off of the previous resources. So after we had sort of used the Heisig method with the Marilyn method on top of it, one of the things that occurred to me was I was like, oh, well, you know, if you can learn the pronunciation of a character at the same time that you learn the meaning and the components of a character, then that opens up the possibility of taking it a level higher to words. And then, of course, if you can start unlocking words, you can take it a level higher to sentences. And then you start getting into real language. You're getting into, because one of the fundamental challenges of Chinese is that it's like, if you want to learn French, you can start reading French today. You know, you can start getting some sense of how French works on the page, but you can't do that with Chinese. You have to first learn these characters. And it's like, if you say, okay, learn the alphabet, 26 letters, it's not too huge a task. But if you say learn 3,000 characters, you know, it's, obviously that's the thing that's going to stop people from even starting in the first place in many cases. And so what we realized is, okay, well, what if you could start teaching the characters, and then after you have only like maybe 50 characters, you start saying, okay, with these 50 characters you already know, here are some words that you can make. And because you know the pronunciation of the character, you can do that. With the Heisig method, you couldn't do that because you could put the two characters next to each other, but it still wouldn't be useful to you because you wouldn't be able to hear them and know it's those characters. And so we realized, all right, we could start going from the components to the characters, from the characters to words, from words to sentences. And then as we continued to do that, we said, okay, how about sentences to paragraphs, and then paragraphs to stories? And so we just keep building it out that way. So that way you don't have to get to 3,000 characters before you're getting real language that you can read without the aid of pinyin. And once we realized that, we thought, okay, this is definitely going to be something that's nothing else out there is like that, because the other good quality content isn't a roadmap. It's just, like Luke said, an ocean of content, which you have to navigate yourself. And so that's kind of how it all developed from the product standpoint.
That is really cool.
What are the barriers? What are the biggest barriers for us personally, and for all the people that we talk to? Because remember, we're in the Laowai community here in China. We know the struggles just from talking to people, and it's like, well, how can the whole system is all about gradually breaking down those barriers more and more, and then we'd figure out something that works, and we just improve on that. And yeah, so that's basically what we did for 2 years, just hammering out that system, building it gradually, and just using the wonderful people in Chengdu that would be willing to give us a little bit of cash for our knowledge to sort of get us through those times. And through the Fu Huaqi, the what do you call it, the incubation period. And eventually we thought, let's turn this into a video course. And of course, that took Phil as well to actually be like, okay, we're ready now. We can make a video course. And I'm like, no. We still need another 5 years of perfection before we can. And he's like, I think we can let's start with pronunciation mastery. So we did that, because pronunciation has to be the first step, you know?
Yeah. I like that process where you're constantly pushing and reaccumulating what it is that you learned from that process, and then lurching forward a little bit. So let's do characters, now let's do words, and then proving it to yourself with the kind of guinea pigs, right? But that element is kind of what sold me on it, was that when you were talking about mnemonic techniques and the kind of outward facing promo content that you guys have been putting out that crossed my radar, and then going, oh yeah, mnemonic techniques. I've never even heard anybody that's using Duolingo use that. I've never even heard somebody from Pimsleur talk about mnemonic techniques. It's just repetition and exposure. Okay, so these guys are on to the cool stuff I personally already know works. So this seems to be cool. So that was already what really lit me up about it. The thing that was the final push was exactly that of, hey, we're two dudes who speak English. We've been through the nightmare of trying to navigate this unending ocean of possibility. There's a way that makes sense for native English speakers to get into this. And the fact that you guys had already been through it, I went, all right, you're my Sherpas. I'm going to trust you guys. You've already been through everything that I know I want to avoid. Let me just check this out. And then I dig in, and then there's the pronunciation mastery and the rest of the course. And then I was just mind blown. So I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. There are so many video courses on everything, but the two of you have helped unlock an entire language and continent of people for folks like us. Like, that isn't a small accomplishment. Like, the thing you've built is literally opening up the possibility of connecting with billions of people. So, it's kind of cool what you did. So getting into the video course part of the program, the part that I'm most impressed with is it looks intentional. And it's refreshing to know that it was built in a process, that it didn't have to be all built out before you even considered launching it. Like, I love knowing that you launched knowing you could build the rest of the thing on the way through. But
Right,
how in the world did you figure out, okay, let's put this Anki deck together. We'll be able to suspend the cards. We'll know that, oh yeah, we're also going to do these videos. Like, the shot sheet has to be incredible. The content generation schedule has to be incredible. How in the world did you manage all of that? How'd you divide that up? That is a monumental task, and I'm going on way too long. I'm going to cut most of this from air, but basically I want
Keep
you
in that
guys
stuff
to.
about how we like did something amazing about
Oh
getting
yeah, for
access to
sure.
billions of
That's
people.
going to get left on the floor. Yeah, nobody's going to see me gush.
There will be no
No.
compliments in this podcast.
Right. So how did you guys face that big a project of having to organize this much information with this many tools that you make available for students like me? How did you navigate the logistics for creating this giant monster of a structure?
Lots and lots of meetings, lots of meetings, and Phil's organizational brain.
Yeah, there's some spreadsheets that are pretty epic going on here.
See, he's the kind of person that could use the word epic to describe a spreadsheet. I personally I'm just like, Phil, I got this thing that we want to do. I want to make characters work into words, and this many characters, this many words.
And I'm
Get
like,
on it.
could we put it into categories that I could put on a list? Oh my gosh. So it was a lot of that. I mean, obviously everything plays into it. So the fact that we went through the process ourselves meant that, to be honest, I think shooting the videos was as natural as could be, because we know it so well. We've done it so many times. So like, actually the video shooting process, I mean, it took a while, but what, we were supposed to do upon arriving in the room to shoot the videos was not complicated. It was like, okay, I know how to learn a character, so I just need to try to explain it in a way. And luckily, all that time we had spent teaching live meant that we'd worked out the kinks of how do I explain this in the right way so that I can tell the people understand. That live time was invaluable because we had a chance to really see people's feedback. You can see people's facial expressions. You can see, are they really getting this? You know how it is when they're locked into what you're saying, they're making eye contact, they're smiling, they're nodding. Like you can have a conversation with somebody without them even opening their mouth at all. So like, we'd gotten through that. So we knew, all right, we know how to do this. And then we just had to make decisions like, where should we cut off the, where should we take the training wheels off? How should we continue to make content moving forward and all that? And there was that side of it. But I can say
that was all mainly intuition, just based on our own experience and just again the thousands of hours of teaching online and live, and just guessing like, okay, level 13 feels like the place that we can stop guiding people on the character methods and just leave them to it. And so on for the words and every single phase, we were like, it was just a feeling. And it seems like that feeling is fairly accurate based on the feedback that we had, which we're really happy about.
That's great. Okay. And that was a peek into a conversation I wanted to have with the two of you, which is, how have you been working together? right? Because me, I'm great on stage. I love just having fun with people. The logistics side of business running, like, please give me a manager, somebody that can use me as fuel and make $1 million off of me by just telling me to go play in the yard. Great, let's do that. Let's get rich together. But for me to build that structure, no way in hell is that going to work. So I have a friend of mine who's phenomenal at promotion, shameless at it, loves tweaking it and making a system. And we
Yeah.
work together really, really well. We can spend a lot of time together. Every business relationship is different. And it's kind of like marrying each other because you're
Yeah.
committed to building this thing that for the foreseeable future is going to continue requiring your working together. So that's why I didn't want to have separate conversations with you. I didn't want you to have to say anything behind each other's back that you wouldn't say to his face. So how has it been going from commiserating about how difficult this is to learn to, hey, let's do this course, to, hey, this is actually a viable business plan and we could actually do this online course thing for reals? Those are much different things. So is it kind of the same process? Slowly boil that frog, and before you know it, you're in business together. Like, walk me through that process.
Bill, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I will say this, the thing that's maybe kind of like the foundation of the partnership working is that I have never, in the entire time of doing this, and Luke has never needed to towards me, ever said like, hey, can you pick up the, the work ethic a little bit? Like, we're both completely motivated and we don't need to, poke each other in that way. And so as a result, I never worry that, like, is Luke going to get enough done? Like I said, yes, he's going to get enough done. The only question is, where are we focusing that energy? And so that's been great, because what it means is that there's, if we have a disagreement, it's only at the level of, where should we be spending our time and energy? It's not a matter of like, are you the right person for the job? Yes. So it's like, that is done and dusted. That was long ago. We figured out, okay, you're the right person to work with on this. So that's good, because it means that we're not dealing with like sort of those, existential arguments where you're like, is this really even the right thing? It's like, no, we're too invested now. It's too deep in the stack. So that's great. That's actually really relaxing in a way. So, and then from there, it's, we're certainly not perfect at it. On the marketing side of things, I feel like I'm always overwhelmed. I'm always just like,
Oh,
I don't
man.
know. How do I
That
put
was
this forward?
that was a nightmare at first, wasn't it? Like we
Yeah.
spent months making pronunciation mastery. I shot everything. I was like, I took like a month or month and a half, just solid daily shooting. And then
Yeah.
Phil, just like another month and a half, 2 months of just solid editing, because we couldn't afford an editor, of course.
Yeah. So I taught
And
myself how to video edit
he
it.
taught himself how to video edit. I taught myself how to design everything in Keynote after about a year to do that. Anyway, once we once we had released the course, we were like, okay, this is the best thing for pronunciation exists, so buy it. Why is no one buying it?
Yeah.
It's still there. Like it's on the website. Why is there not? We should have money now, right? Like,
We made the thing. It's on
mate,
offer. There should be money in the bank.
it's the best thing. Why don't you just buy it? Like, oh, I have to persuade you? Like, oh, okay, fine. I'll learn how to make web pages then, because I can't afford that either. So I spent about 6 months just learning how to, just testing out stuff, email campaigns, basically just learning online marketing. And that was something that I enjoy, but it's not nowhere near as much as actually just making and teaching and creating. But so that's been a struggle for both of us, is actually selling the thing and keeping the lights on. And we're getting better and better. And today we're a different level compared to what we were, of course, but it's still that's still a struggle for us. It's just like, oh, I've got to write another email campaign, or I've got to get another web page set up for, the selling part. Even though I did marketing at university, it's still not, that was a whole separate skill we had to learn. A very nasty surprise.
Yeah, that's been one thing about people being worried, oh, they're going to steal my idea. I love the quote about something along the lines of, "Don't worry, because if it's a good idea, you'll have to cram it down people's throats."
Right. Yeah.
And it can be the best thing in the universe, empirically better than every single other thing in the world, and that still doesn't mean that people are going to hand over cash.
Yeah.
Wait, no, I made the best thing in the world and you still have my money. Like, put my
Mhm.
money in my pocket. I'll give you
Well,
the best thing in the world, but you still have my money. Come on, give it.
do you want a proof of that? Is, you know, Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison, like, or, you know, Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. Bill Gates, Windows is nonsense compared to the Mac, you know, in my opinion. But it's just,
Yeah.
yeah, he has the best marketing. So
Yeah.
Exactly.
Marketing's huge. But I mean, we also we just have different strengths. You know, like I'm more than happy to you know, so like, you know, I found a friend recommended a sort of company management software that helps you manage your employees and tasks and stuff like that. And it's kind of like a spreadsheet on steroids. And I was like, oh, I'm into this. So you know, I'll make, and it has automations in it and stuff. And I'll be happy to spend time doing that type of thing and, you know, save us some time and money there, or make it easier for our employees to do things. And then Luke has a good flair for design. He's like, you know, willing to, you know, I think we've already kind of alluded to the fact that like Luke's more along the perfectionist side and I'm more along the like ship it even if it's not perfect side. And that's a good thing. It's a good tension to have because we're always
Mhm.
kind of debating those two things. And we're both not like zealots about it. I'm not like ship it even if it's crap. And he's not like, it has to be, you know, every single pixel has been analyzed by 3 parties before we can move on, you know. So it's, you know, we have a good tension there. And then yeah, so it's like, for the most part, what's nice about it is that it's very, we just kind of have, our meetings are very efficient at this point. We're kind of just like, okay, where's our focus? What are we going to do here? What are our main goals right now? Okay, go. And we don't like spend too much time like second guessing ourselves, I guess.
it's great.
Because like,
I actually really enjoy working with Phil. I think I'm very lucky. I said that to you once when we were out getting drunk. I was just like, if I ever have to get, when I used to drink, but is it if I ever have like, in the future, we don't, you know, we break up, we get divorced or whatever, and I have to go and find another business partner, start another business or something like that. It's like, I think I'll miss like because it is, like you said earlier, it's very comforting. It's very relaxed work environment. It's like, okay, I know Phil's got that. And I assume Phil's also like, I know Luke is going to do a good job of this, and I can just split the tasks and just relax. You know, it's very. I feel like not everyone has this kind of level of business relationship. You know.
Yeah, that is a spectacular balance and tension, just like what you said. The compression, the resistance to pressure, and tension, resistance to pulling, and that push
mhm.
pull, keeping each other's tendencies in check is a great balance to have. And that's a cool thing to find and to keep.
Yeah. Well, another thing too is I think that both Luke and I understand that like there's sort of like on a deeper level, like what are we trying to do? Are we trying to make money? Well, not exactly. We obviously hope that that's a result. What we're really hoping for is to make it a lot easier for people to connect with Chinese culture and, you know, understand the language itself. The language in and of itself is so fun to read. Like just reading alone, like not even talking about, you know, communicating with Chinese people, which has its own series of benefits. But like just sitting down and reading a book in Chinese is such a pleasure that it's like, well, I want to help people do that. Like, it's like, and so does Luke. And so we're kind of, that sort of functions as like a low hum below
Mm.
everything that we're doing. And so that also is a huge part of it. And because I know that that's like, you know, to some degree, it's a pure motivation. It's not like something that's, it's not very corruptible because it's like, we did it ourselves. We worked really hard to get to the point where we could do that. And so it's, um, you know, my dad last week was like, because he's like, everybody's mad at China right now. Maybe you guys should consider teaching other languages. And I was just like, I mean, I'm not, I guess, like, but I don't know. I don't really, that thinking of doing that just feels like I wouldn't, be at all connected with it. Like, people are like, why don't you teach English? Chinese people will ask me that. They'll say, why don't you teach English? You're a foreigner in China. And I'm like, because I don't care. I'm not very interested in teaching that subject. And it's not that I couldn't make money doing it, but it's not like, I don't know. It's not just about money. So
yeah.
Sure.
Huh. That's super cool. Yeah, and I got to tell you, the process of going through it is a lot of fun, and I'm just getting a glimpse and a glimmer into how much fun it is to read. Like yesterday, I got to Mudi, and like, okay, eyeball, bullseye, keep the eye on the target. What's your objective? Yeah, that makes sense. That is so logical.
that just keeps happening too.
Yeah. And it's just like, yeah, this is really fun. So it's the weirdest thing how much fun it actually is to learn. And sometimes when there's a particularly weird just grouping of actors and place, because my Z actor is my stage name persona, which I
Okay.
toured for almost a decade as Johnny Zavant. So Zavant. And starting off, I had a mohawk, the whole 9 yards. So it's the Z actor is Zavant, the character of me as the punk rock mind reader.
Oh, nice.
So then when the Z character is in the bathroom of your home, like your childhood home, that's weird. So now I've got my stage name persona is in the house where me, Jonathan, grew up, looking at myself as this character. There's just all sorts of weird interactions and situations that you wind up being in. And then I'll just start laughing. And then my sweetie is like, all right, what is it? I'm like, okay. So it's Zavant in the bathroom with the candlestick. Okay, not with the candlestick. That's a different prop, right? So I'll walk through, and then I'll play it without headphones on, and then I think it was you, Luke. You were speaking, and then she goes, "He has a very reassuring voice." I was like, "All right, enough out of you." There, but it's so nice to have the two of you be so distinctly different, be able to complement as somebody going through the course, and be able to go, okay, today I get to work with Luke. That's neat. So it's fun on that level too. It's just, like I say, it's just super cool. Way different than, here's your workbook. Here are the 4 tones: high, flat, rising, falling, rising, falling. Okay, there you go. I'm like, what are you talking about? So
Do
it
you
really
remember how
is.
to say goodbye? Yeah.
right.
Just having another film as a flashback there.
Right.
But yeah,
Repeat after
yeah,
me.
absolutely. We've
Yeah.
Well,
been
you
told
kind
that
of
a lot, and
alluded.
that helps.
Yeah.
It's like we're complementary, and because we're very different people, very different in our personalities and our accents and everything. So it's just like, yeah, people get like this the variety there.
Yeah, and another thing that's really developed that has been such a delightful surprise is how the community interactions go. So the people who are members on the course. So like, I guess a couple of years ago, I because I'm always thinking about how can we get more done in less time. And one of the ways that I thought of how we could interact with the community is like, well, what if we made a podcast that was based on the questions that come in all the time in the comments below the videos? And I was just like, all right, what if we could make the podcast and then we could just respond to them with a link to the YouTube video where we talk about their question. And what that's caused as a result is people realize, oh, cool, I'm going to get like a video response to my comment. And so now we get loads of comments every day. We're probably averaging like 100 comments a day at this point. So it's getting crazy. Maybe not quite that much. Maybe it's like 50, but it's a lot. And then we take those and then we answer the people from the comments. And then if it was related to a specific character, we'll put that response to them in the course. So they end up becoming a member of the course, or like a part of the material in the course, because their mnemonic scene gets talked about. And so anybody who's going through it, so it's this cool thing where everybody can help each other out. And so the course is kind of alive in a way. Sort of every week there's new things happening with it. And that just has become great. It's like we're getting to really see the people without necessarily having to spend 2 hours with each person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't want to put too fine a point on it, but I think that's genius because it's a great way to engage the community and to let them know that it's live and responsive. And part of my work, writing a book, creating performance art, like whatever it is, it's not anger that you're scared of. It's complete apathy. Complete lack of response is like the worst thing possible, right? So
Yeah.
that's why as I started going through it, I know how awful it is to not get comments. So that's why I was invested in doing that. Oh, weird. My computer just did a blip. So are you guys still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
we'll fix that in post. That was super weird. All right. And
I've got a good thing. If you could say that comment again, because I had a good response to that.
Yeah, let's see. Well, that's so strange. Let me just hit record again. Yeah, cool. So the part of it was that I know how difficult it can be to create something and have absolutely zero engagement from anybody. You're like, I spent so much time creating this baby and nobody loves it. They don't even care enough to be angry at it. So that's why I like being over invested in commenting and then seeing the video response. That was very much on that's great positive feedback. That makes me want to do it even more. Let's see if I'll get on the next one. And it really is cool for me to look in the comments and see what scenes the other students have created. And then somebody would be like, oh, my character's Neo from the Matrix. I'm like, you know what? That would be a great one. And it really has become this organic thing that keeps getting more and more valuable as more people contribute to it. So I think that's just genius.
That's actually something that came, I think, sort of back. We didn't expect that to sort of take an organic growth in itself. That was something that, but I think it's also because, like I said before, we noticed all the weaknesses that were there with other products. And I guess something that I never had personally, and I don't think, Phil, even you in university didn't really have, was a coach. A coach related directly to the thing that you're using. So a memorized coach or a Chinese pod coach, or that you had very little in the way of direct support, especially zero support from people who had actually learned it themselves. It was always from Chinese people who never had to learn Chinese in their lives. So it's this complete lack of empathy that I always felt throughout my journey. And just like, I'm on my own here, this is my own journey, whereas what I think we offer, and this is by accident, we didn't think of this going in. I think it just naturally happened because we like to be good coaches, you know. I think what naturally has happened is people get the sense that they don't have a guy in front of them or a woman in front of them telling them what to do. It's someone behind them pushing them along with them. That's the difference between a teacher and a coach, essentially. There's one of them's above you in status and in front of you telling you what to do, pulling you towards your goal. And the coach is behind you, with you, like in a huddle, going ahead. And the coach, more often than not, a good coach has been a player as well. So that's something that like an extra thing that I didn't expect to happen, that has happened. People have just really appreciated that. And the organic growth in the comments and the community is a sign of that, I think.
Yeah. In the times when new compound words come up, just reinforces me being able to relax into the process, knowing that you guys got me. I just kind of like, they've already thought through this. I just have to trust the system. I just have to trust the process. And to the coach angle, it's the same thing in martial arts. You know, I don't need to know how to fight at Olympic level to do this drill. My coach tells me to do this thing. I better do that thing and not ask how many times. Just do it until he tells me to stop. I know that he knows best what to do. And then in 2 years, that drill will suddenly come in handy. And I go, oh, that's how that fits together. How clever. Then that just keeps happening in the course where you're like, learn this thing, learn that thing, learn this thing. 2 weeks later, hey, remember those things you learned? Here it is together. Isn't that neat? You're like, it is neat. It is really neat. How neat is that? It's so neat. So it's
And we're
just
just there stroking our beards like a Chinese grandmaster. Yes.
right. Like I'm surprised that you guys aren't living on top of a mountain, that you're
Yeah.
forcing people to walk up on their hands and knees to learn from
Yeah.
you.
Well, another
that's
thing
nice.
that has occurred to me about when you're talking about that is that we obviously also, and this is I feel like I learned a lot of this from Luke as well, is just that everything that comes in, every bit of feedback that we've been getting for the past 4 years, we always take it seriously. Now, it doesn't mean we always act on it. Depends on, what the feedback and who's saying it at what point in the course. But we always, consider it and decide whether or not it's something we can do. Now, sometimes we can't act on it because it's like, you guys really have your own app. And I'm like, yes, we should, but it's really expensive and we can't afford that right now. But so, well, maybe someday. But then other things will be like, hey, why is this the way it is? And then we'll go, you know what, we should really explain that earlier. And then, we'll put that in, make a new video and add something to the course. So that's something that is, if we were too high and mighty about it, like, we know the way, then the course would not be nearly as good as it is. Like, we always have to be willing to, self-criticize and see how we could have been making it, how we could make it better.
That's a great detail. I have a creative consultant. We've known each other for more than 16 years. He's the only person on the planet who knows as much about my mission as a performer and a speaker as I do. And anything he says, I know that he knows exactly the correct thing and has very useful insight. Balance that with after a show or a speaking engagement and somebody goes, hey, that mind reading stuff, that predicting the future and influencing human behavior was great, but here's what you should do. You should instead have a trained squirrel. Now, people love animals, and that would be a great addition to your show. So then at that extreme, you just say, hey, thank you so much for the feedback. If you start getting the same feedback over and over again from all sorts of different audiences, that's definitely something that you should pay attention to. And then, hey, let me work with the audience instead of against them. Let them educate me. And then you get more and more effective at doing exactly what it is that they need for you. So that's a great
especially
instinct.
when someone makes it to level 57. Like, I had an interview with Roseanne, one of the few people that has actually made it through to the end, because it's such a huge course, right? And actually used all the materials.
There's an end?
At the moment.
At the moment.
At the moment.
Yeah,
We're
at the
going
moment
to
there
keep
is.
extending it, but yeah.
Yeah. And everything he said, I was interviewing him. I was like, okay, I want to know everything that you feel about, because I know that his feedback is going to be, everyone's feedback is valuable, but his is going to be, I'm going to give extra onus to. Like, I'm going to, like, okay, this needs this. Okay, I'll almost definitely do that. If you say that after, watching us for like, God knows how many hours. And spend, investing 6 months, like 3 hours a day into the course. Yeah, whatever you say that needs to change, we'll take that very, very seriously.
Outstanding. I'll be honest with you. My goal is one new character a day. So I'm taking the leisurely route. At the same time, I'm also learning coding. So I'm learning this super obscure coding language called Hoon that is for a server that only talks to other servers like it. So it's a meta protocol on the internet. So I'm in coding school for that. So I got that going on. Got full-time consulting day job, got the performing and all that jazz. I'm still spending a lot of time with you too. And it's great. So that's why I was like, you know what? I want my goal to be feasible. And even still, one a day sometimes is a challenge. Like today, I put in 8 hours at the keyboard writing and had some client calls. As soon as that was done, the last call of the day, I moved my whole rig and setup into the living room to have a college Zoom show where I read the minds of college kids, and then that took an hour. And then the instant that was done, I broke it down, brought it back into the office, reset up the rig so that we could have this call. As soon as this is done, then I go do the coding class at 9 p.m. today. So I'm counting this conversation as my one character for the day, right? But
Really?
it's
That's
I
fine.
don't
yeah.
know.
So even at the one a day level, I still think it's super fun and interesting. And my personal goal is to be able to come bother you guys, show up in China, go hang out in Hong Kong for a while, do some kung fu fighting with some Wing Chun folk, and then bum around for a while. So as long as that takes, man, I didn't get where I am by dabbling too. So that kind of maniacal focus, like, yeah, that's my speed. I'm willing to spend years learning how to hold a deck of cards better. Learning a language is piece of cake.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, you get a fundamental thing about habits there is that like it doesn't really, because the thing is, once the habit's formed, you can adjust it if you want. You can say, okay, now I'm going to go to 5 characters a day, or I'm going to go to 30 characters a day. It doesn't really matter. The point is you already have the neural network created to go, okay, I'm going to have my coffee. I'm going to brush my teeth. I'm going to do my Anki cards, or I'm going to learn my character. And so like the fact that that's already established, you know, I was happened to be looking at a video that we made for the level 3 review in the course because somebody left a comment on it, and I was checking what they were saying about it. And I remember what I said in the video was like, don't keep taking it slow. Like, don't go fast, because if you go too fast, you might overwhelm yourself and then start to create negative emotions with learning Chinese. The key is to feel like it's like nothing to do it. You know, it's like, oh, okay, it's the same difficulty as brushing your teeth. And then once you feel like that, then you can add more to it if you want, or not, or just keep going. You'll eventually get there.
Yeah.
You know, even
You
if
gotta
you
enjoy
take
yourself.
it 1 character a day, you'll do it in your lifetime. So, you know.
Yeah, it sounds cliche, but you got to have fun. You got to enjoy the journey. And we always say this because once you get to quote unquote fluency, or a level of fluency that you're happy with, which is more accurate, I suppose, you can read novels. You can hold yourself in pretty much any conversation. That's going to be normality for you. It's going to be like, oh, that's just something I do. It's like someone would look at what you can do, Jonathan, with the mind. You do hypnosis and stuff, right, as well. You can hypnotize people. You can read people's minds. You probably see that as that's just something you do. That's just
Another
like
day in the
normality now.
office.
Yeah, maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that was like something that you aspired to have, and that's incredible to you. But then now you have it. It's just, okay, what's the next dream? All right, Chinese, Wing Chun master, you know. That's the way we are as human beings. So if you don't enjoy the process towards that goal, the journey, you're never going to enjoy yourself, because it's not like you go, oh, I'm fluent now, I'm so happy and everything, I'm satisfied in life. You know, no, add another dream on, you know. So and that's key, even if it's only 1 character a day. And more to that point as well, as long as you have a method that works, you're happy to invest 5 minutes or 5 hours as well, because you know it's going to be worthwhile, and you're happy just to say, okay, I've got this track laid out for me, so I can just spend as much time as I want. And I know, and that's why we did those calculations, you know, 850 hours, or what was it, Phil? I can't even remember now.
Around that.
All right, I think it's 850 hours we calculated on average to complete everything, to basically to learn how to read 94% of Chinese, 4,000 words, 1,500 characters. And also that includes 250 hours of speaking practice, which should help you like reach a decent level of fluency. That's just a guess though. But so it's like 600 hours to learn how to read, no problem, you know. But you can just divide that by whatever number you want. So depending on how many hours a day you want to work, or minutes a day. So you just, okay, that's going to take me 4 years. Oh no, I'm going to work 4 hours a day. Oh, it's going to take me 3 months. You know, so
that's great. And I even get to the goofy level of, I legitimately do this where I say, I get to do Chinese today. I don't ever say I have to, or, oh, I have to do this today. Nope. Oh, I get to do this. This is a thing I get to celebrate the ability to engage with and do. So even if it's, oh man, it's 11:23, I have to do my Chinese for the day. No, it's like, oh, before I get to bed, I get to do my Chinese, and then yeah, this is cool. So
Yeah.
those little tricks add up. It's just like snowflakes, just the habit forms, and then suddenly you look back and then, oh, I did the thing. That's great.
Mm. Yeah.
Super cool. All right, so that's good for me to know that there is at least an end. So to me, I was wondering, like, are you guys still just working on this like Sisyphus, pushing the stone up the hill every
Yes.
day, trying to create?
Yes.
Yes, we're working about half. My job at the moment mainly, we do everything. Both of us do everything, but like my job mainly is working on selling the course, and Phil's job mainly is working on maintaining and improving the course. Right, that's how we're currently got things set up, and it's working quite well. And yeah, we'll probably expand the course again, like within a year or so. So that end that we spoke about is going to be about twice as long, unfortunately. But yeah, we're gonna. The next one's going to be 3,000. So we're currently at 1,500 characters, 4,000 words. The next one's going to be 3,000 characters.
Cool.
So like in total, it's going to be 3,000. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And
I'm
God
in.
knows how many words come along with that. I don't know. Maybe 10,000 words into. I don't know. We'll see.
Something like that.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm along for the ride. Like I straight up just said yes. The amount of time that I spent doing it the wrong way with the other language learning strategies, of which I will not name anymore. The fact that I spend enough time with them and then immediately recognizing, okay, this is the real sauce. This is the real way to do it with the way the brain actually works. And you're covering writing, pronunciation, keyword association, the whole 9 yards in one 2-minute shot. Boom, you've got this thing. It's like genius. Yeah, I signed up for the lifetime access. So good luck getting rid of me. We're gonna be around for quite a while. And the fact that we're coming up on an hour, you guys got families and you got the day to get to. So as we're starting to wrap up, what's some of the things that you'd like to communicate or just cover before we wrap it up?
Well, I think that if somebody is interested in learning about either Mandarin or how to use memory techniques, either way, our course is pretty good, because like I've always thought that when it comes to our course, I'd always love to get people who are just really interested in learning how to become good at the memory palace. And like they just use Chinese characters as their object for that. So it's not like, because why not? I mean, it doesn't mean that you have to become fluent in Mandarin. I wouldn't be surprised if you end up finding it really interesting and continue. But when it comes to an object to use as a thing to teach you how to learn memory techniques, Chinese characters are one of the best things you could pick, because they come with meaning inherently as a part of it. And so that's one of those, it's like one of the things learning Chinese has taught me is how to break down almost any concept that I just took for granted as learning as a kid. What is a desk? What is a chair? Like these like basic things. What does it mean to push somebody or poke somebody? Chinese, every little thing that you do, Chinese has their own version of it, and it's built on a different structure of characters first, and not like a alphabetical language that builds grammar from there by changing word forms and stuff like that. Instead of that, it's these characters. And so almost everything that you do in the process reorganizes your brain, and it makes you, I think, better at thinking. I mean, I'm not, I can't claim that scientifically. It just, when it comes to learning the memory techniques, learning how to utilize your own lived experience to memorize things, and then what you get out of it is this new system of meaning, this whole new meta system of meaning that uses characters instead. It's just such a fun process. So even if you never thought about learning Chinese before, it might be worth checking out the course. I mean, we have a free trial anyway, so just check it out for a few days and then take your credit card off file. No big deal. But it's one of those things where it's really thrilling to learn how to do that stuff. So
Can
couldn't say it better
confirm from
myself.
personal experience. Yeah. How about you, Luke? What's the couple things that you wanna end on?
Well, I mean, I think Phil said it, to be honest. Yeah, it's not only a way of learning Chinese. It's a way of learning several skills, including memory techniques themselves, which me and Phil have used to apply to other things like doing speeches in both English and Mandarin, and the journey method and all that sort of stuff. And it's also a way of learning how to learn languages in itself. Of course, the character method won't be very useful for learning French, but generally the concept of learning holistically, learning the small parts, but also seeing them in context, top down. It's a very important concept. So starting with pronunciation, getting input, that's the key. That's the number one thing that we always think. The whole course is built around, we want you, and I said this in the podcast a couple of days ago, which is our goal is not to get as much money from you as possible. Our goal right now is actually to get you to the level where you can fly the nest. You can actually leave us. So our job is to get you to be able to read and understand the language. So you can go and read and understand whatever you want, and use that to get to your goals. And we'll be there, like we're coaches and stuff. We'll get you through whatever level you want to get to. But we're happy to say, you take us for a few months or a year or whatever it takes to get to that point, and then fly. Go and use whatever products you want. Go and converse with whoever you want. And that's what our goal is. And you can learn that not just for Mandarin, but you can apply these concepts to any language, and it's really fun.
That's fantastic. And a big part of what I love about it is seeing that work for myself, and also seeing you guys putting it together in that way that is just incredible. So I want you guys to have all the success in the world too. So yeah, my hat's off to you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Awesome. So yeah, that'll be as good a place as any to wrap it up. I'll just hit stop and record.